So I'm out here today trying to diagnose and repair a no start condition on this is a 1992 F-150 5.0. This is pretty common to a lot of Ford pickups. Obviously this is a 92, 96 F-150, but this is applicable to a lot of Ford pickups from the 80s, the 90s, probably even the 70s. So I'll show you what I'm getting. All right, key in, ignition to start, and as you can see, basically I'm taking the key to start, and I'm not getting starter engagement. The one thing of note is that you see the odometer goes away and the speedometer needle drops a little bit when I taking the key to start. It's in on position now, taking to start. So I'm gonna leave the key in the on position, and we are going to jump under the hood and we are going to see what we can ascertain. And one thing again that's common to a lot of these older Fords is right up here, this is actually the starter solenoid. So this is a little electrical piece which tells the starter to do the starting. Now theoretically the condition that we have could be caused by a number of different things. It could be the ignition switch, it could be the starter itself, but I do know that this is a pretty common culprit. So basically you got these two big terminals, these two big lugs on here. The two big lugs on this with the nuts on them, if you jump those out with a giant screwdriver, what I believe we're going to see is the vehicle will start. So what that does for us is it narrows down our troubleshooting quite a bit. I believe if the truck will start with jumpering out that starter solenoid on the fender, I believe that narrows it down to one of two things. Obviously our starter's fine, so it could be the ignition switch. Now the reason I don't think it's the ignition switch itself is because we had that deflection of the speedometer needle and some other indications up here on our instruments when we took the key to start. I don't know, but my guess, my theory is that probably means that the switch itself is doing something, probably doing whatever it's supposed to do. So that, in my opinion, narrows it down to it's likely this, which is that little, man, this thing runs so good. I'm not trying to sell it, but I'd take 8,000, Facebook or YouTube special if anybody's real interested. So this right here is a new one of those little things, and we're gonna see if we can pop that on and we clear our condition. All right, so we got our bright, shiny new starter switch installed. Pretty easy procedure. Absolutely nothing to it. If you can turn a wrench, you can replace one of these things. So let's hop back in the cab. See if we have repaired our issue of concern. Moment of truth. Oh. Further diagnosis required, huh? Well, damn. Let's see if we jumper it out. Will it work? Well, that still works. Well, damn. Back to the drawing board. All right, so this is actually kind of a good thing for illustrative purposes because it enables us to engage additional thought processes. So I think this can only be caused by a few things. So essentially, so this is basically the relay and the starter solenoid for this model of Ford truck. It's really a simple system, honestly. It's pretty easy to work on. So basically these two big terminals, they have 12 volts across them and they come straight from the battery. Now we check the battery, it's got 12 volts. I check these two terminals, they've got 12 volts. So that part's good. Now what's supposed to happen with this is that this little wire right here, which goes onto this terminal, this little wire right here comes from the cab. And when you take the truck to start, there's a signal sent through this wire, and it tells this solenoid, this box, to connect those two terminals and send those 12 volts that they have to the starter. So the fact that I can jump it out with a screwdriver and the starter starts up just fine, tells me that one of two things is the case. Either this wire right here, that 12 volt that signal that I'm supposed to be sending from the ignition switch isn't going to this wire. This wire's not carrying that signal, or this thing is bad. Now, this is brand new, so it shouldn't be bad. We need to take this signal wire, and using the multimeter, we are going to check and see if the signal is getting to this terminal, this little signal wire. If it's not, it can be one of two things, I believe. I believe it can really only be the ignition switch itself, or the neutral safety switch, or the wiring in between them. All right, so this is our test rig. Got the positive hooked up to this little signal wire, and then I've got the negative hooked up to the ground on the battery, and I've got the multimeter set up so I can see it from the cab. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take the switch to start and see if the multimeter responds. Multimeter's not responding. Now, I said that there's basically two things I think that narrows it down to, assuming that that setup, that test rig is good. That would narrow it down to either the ignition switch, which I really hope it's not, or the neutral safety switch on the trans, taken down to neutral. Let's see if it responds any differently now. It's not responding any differently. All right, so I've relocated under the vehicle. That is the range selector switch for the trans. Essentially, that's the neutral safety switch, along with a few other things. That is actually a new switch, so I hope it's fine. And basically, I've already unplugged it. These are the two plugs that go into the trans. This one is in better shape. This is the one that goes into that range switch, neutral safety switch, whatever. And the thing is, I replaced that neutral safety switch for another issue not related to starting. And I think what I was going after when I replaced that the first time around was actually the switch is not bad, but this connector is, and you can see that chafing and all that. That's a known issue on these. It's known to cause problems. I got this whole new connector with a new pigtail. I'm not a master auto electrician, but we're gonna try and scab that in. All right, so this is old versus new. This is our old connector. This is our new one out of the box. This is with all the new wires crimped on. I know it sucks, but I suck. I think that you're supposed to light these on fire with with a lighter and cocoon them, and then maybe go over them with some electrical tape for good measure. All right, so here we are after copious amounts of electrical tape. Got this thing back into the loom. We're gonna see what that does for us. All right, moment of truth. Can't say I'm optimistic. Oh! Ha 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 ha! Woo! Automotive master electrician at your service. Bam, baby.